thank you guys for coming. Are you guys excited? Have you guys been having a great stay in Japan?
I hear that. You guys sound tired.
You guys want to not sound tired? Let's do it one more time. Okay? You guys excited? Woo! There we go. A lot of us, this is our first, a few of us, this is the first time for them coming to stay in Japan, so please, be nice.
So far, the people we've interacted with have actually been really nice.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
It's Texas hospitality. So real quick, this is the racial, I can't even remember the panel's name. I'm sorry. So, real quick, how about we're going to introduce ourselves very briefly, and then we'll kind of go through a little bit about who we are, our name, and then how we're involved in the anime industry. And then once we get done with that, I will open it up to questions from the audience. You guys cool with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Did you want to start?
Sure, I'll start. Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Loraldo Anzaldúa. I'm a voiceover artist, actor. I play Kei Tsukushima in the show Haikyuu, Ryo Kurokiba in Food Wars, and then way back in the day, Ken Washio from Gatchaman.
Hello everyone, my name is Arthur Isom, the founder and CEO of DR Studios, the first, anime, American-owned anime studio in Tokyo, Japan.
You have to talk into it.
Hello. Oh, okay.
Pretty far. No, that was a different mic.
Hi, my name is Samantha Inoue Hart. I used to be a voice actor for ADV Films for many years, since the 90s. I was like the Chocobo in Final Fantasy Unlimited, and I was Konan Lee in Sakura Wars. But I've also been an animator since the 90s, so I started working in the American animation industry and then switched over to producing for the Japanese.
Hey everybody, my name is Brian. I'm an actor and a casting director and one of the co-owners of Wazoo Art Studio. We are an anime and video game and voiceover dubbing and voiceover recording studio. We've worked on titles such as Stormgate, which is a AAA video game and the successor to StarCraft 2, Iron Dragon, worked on Sailblock, Korean films. For myself, for acting, I've worked on Trigun Stampede, I've worked on One Piece, I'm in One Piece, Trigun, a couple of other isekai animes. My most popular roles are Mao Song from Seven Knights and Ramses from Anima at the beginning.
Hi, my name is Shin Ishikawa, founder and CEO of Gonzo. And Gonzo is an anime production for 30 years. And then actually tomorrow we have a session of Gonzo's 30th year anniversary. I'm gonna explain Gonzo at that time quite a lot. So, we did an Afro Samurai. Probably that's the most popular in America. We did Full Metal Panic, popular here. That's an old one, and then a newer one, probably. We did a Linkin Park Breaking the Habit music clip. We got an MTV award for that. So probably we go in detail next time. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dante Carver. I am a film and television actor. I also do voiceover. Work in Japan. I've actually.
He's the most known guy in Japan. Everybody knows him.
I'm very humble. He's not exaggerating, but I would never say it directly myself. Arthel and I have worked together with day art projects for pretty much almost since they opened. So occasionally I'll do voiceover work with them or concept designs and artwork for certain animated projects like Visions, Sort of Simpsons, Sound and Fury, and so forth. I don't have time. Yes, thank you, Sammy. I actually forgot about that. And Resident Evil Vendetta, the character that's in it, his name is DC, named after me. Face, everything, it's all me. And the other one that she's whispering down the line is Metal Gear Solid 5. Go! The last real one. Sorry, no shade. All of the soldiers there, about 80% of them, you're sniping or putting them to sleep, that's me. And the character, Jim Kangaroo or Braga, if you capture him, he's fully customizable and playable in the game. That is also me. But that's like my full face. Okay, thanks. We'll get to that later.
Ooh, questions? Anyone have questions? Oh, wow. Boy, everybody's jumping at once.
You have a question? Sorry.
You speak Russian?
Russian, no, I don't. Unfortunately, I wish I did. I had some friends that tried teaching me, but after their visas expired in Japan, they left and I didn't have the process, but I don't speak now. But open to learning.
Everybody squeeze in.
Everybody squeeze.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, can we talk about maybe how everybody started their career, like started out?
Brenda, you want to start first?
I don't want to start.
I started last time. I started last time.
Ladies first.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
So I started off as an animator over in Texas, in Austin, actually. Little Wolf Entertainment, there was a director there named Sam Fleming. We worked on like King of the Hill, we worked on a lot of like Disney and Warner Brothers projects, like the Jetsons, like Electrosol commercials and stuff like that, and Barbie, lots of Barbie. And one day when I was animating, I talk smack at the characters that I animate, and one of the producers was like, "Wow, you have an annoying voice. You'd be perfect in anime." So I started voicing in anime, and then from there met Shin and met other directors and producers in Japan, and started making connections. And now I work with multiple companies like Nickelodeon, and with it's like with Titmouse, and I help connect the dots for any studios, so that way American studios and Japanese studios can work together.
Right. All right, I can go.
Yeah.
So close.
Yeah, I'm the baby. I'm the youngest one in the group here, so it's going to be pretty short. I started back in 2015, 2016 on Newgrounds. I used to run with a crowd of guys who did animations, and they sometimes want voices for their cartoons. People were Stamper, Spaz Kid, Oni, Ego Raptor, and I was like, oh yeah, I definitely do voices for you guys. And I started getting auditions for a lot of anime mobile games and a lot of indie video games as well too. And I never really thought about getting into anime per se. I was like, I like the small indie stuff because it was a smaller community. Everyone was more chill, and you didn't have the pressure of like, oh, I have to be like a big time celebrity. You just did it because you had fun and you enjoyed it. But over the years, I got into live action acting because an agent told me, why are you hiding in a booth when people should see this more? So I was like, okay, okay. And I got into Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Walker, Texas Ranger, the remake on CW, and I started doing more live action stuff. But from there, I wasn't satisfied, and I wanted to continue to build out more, and I went into anime, and then eventually into more bigger video games. I became the voice of Shazam from DC Universe Online, but I was still trying to maintain doing live action acting and voice acting at the same time. And then the biggest thing was building Lazio Arts, and I said, you know, screw it, I'm gonna start a company to help support other POCs and other people who have a hard time getting into the industry, because as I was getting in to the bigger industry, it was harder and harder. So I said, I know I'm not the only one who's dealing with this. I want to provide a company that provides opportunities for people who have a hard time getting in, like I did in the past, because I know I'm not the only one, and I have to make the way easier for people, the next generation. So, a little long-winded, but that's where I got to where I am.
Okay, so, okay, probably I have the longest history, but then I started, actually I was originally astrophysicist and then business consultant, but in 1995 I decided to start my own company to do anime. The reason is that I saw anime being two things was that, how to say, very behind the world. One is nothing was digitized. We used cells for most anime in 94, 95. So digitization of animation, including that using the 3D computer graphics. And the second is to make Japanese anime international. To make, not just selling Japanese anime to the world, but to make together with the international people to make global content. Those are the two things I aimed. That's why Gonzo made an Afro Samurai, Linkin Park, all those things. Basically, we had an LA office from the beginning, around 2000, when we started growth. So I believe that 95 to 2000, it was more of a digitization time. And then after 2000, Gonzo started to make a more bigger original content ourselves, and then at that time we pushed with the digital technology to make it more international. More detail will come tomorrow, but then that's a brief history of what I'm
For some of you who were in the panel earlier, so if you hear a repeat, for the most part, I got my start auditioning for Sesame Street when I was 4. Got cast, but my mom got stationed overseas, so that never happened. But I always had an interest in acting and working with creatives. From there, it basically just evolved from acting to stunt work, obviously voiceover work, and designs. I like designing things, but more so digitally than I used to, just because it's more convenient and it gives me a chance to work with some people that may not be in the same country that I'm in, but I can still extend and work with them. Being in Japan, acting, it does kind of put you in a box. So getting the chance to work with people like Arthel, some toy companies like Kotobukiya, Hot Toys, things of that nature, and to design toys and things of that nature, it was a nice little open window of an escape for me, because it gave me a chance to do something creative in a different space. So that pretty much is what keeps me in Japan outside of acting, doing voice acting and design work. Short. Hi, Sugi.
Yeah. All right, I guess I will. All right, so mine was a really simple, stupid story. I was at a reunion in college that was also a wedding, and we went around the table and it's like, what do you do? What do you do? And I'm like, I'm an actor. And somebody, 2 people down, was like, I work for this company called AD Vision. This was in 1999, before AD Vision turned to ADV, and then from ADV to Sentai Filmworks. They were like, I work in finance for this company that we do cartoons. And he handed me his business card, and he's like, email me and I'll, send your info to all the directors that are in the company. There were 3 directors. But I emailed, and then a few weeks later I got a call and I got an audition, and that's how I started. But from that, alongside it, I was doing fight direction, right? I'm a fight director as a profession as well. And I got into motion capture for film and video games. So from the fight training, all the martial arts, and then also staged fight direction for a bunch of different plays, I got to work on a few different video game series, like Just Cause. I worked on the motion capture for that. The Chronicles of Riddick, back when that first came out, I was the Vin Diesel character, and then I went to Japan and I worked with Mozu Studios and Shinji Aimaki for the Appleseed series and then the Starship Trooper series. So all of that was an intersection of like all the different professional things I do and a little bit of luck, right? So all that happened with the voiceover stuff.
And how did I get into anime? So I guess it started back when I was so I've been drawing ever since I was a kid, and the reason I moved to Japan was I wanted to be a background artist, and I wanted to work for the art director of Ghost in the Shell. That was my favorite animation, and yeah, and then so my short, my first job was working for Obersan, and so I got to learn a lot, working on lots of different animes, working on Naruto, all the films, all the Shukuden films, worked on TV shows, worked on quite a lot of things, and Gintama and Conan's films, and then yeah, just kind of working in background films, and then I always wanted to start my own company ever since I was in high school with my brother, and so kind of like there's always like a little bit of luck, right, with anything that you're doing, and so we had a little bit of luck that there was an opportunity that finally back then start bringing a company out in Japan, and then so now I'm started around animation studio. And we're going on our 7th year, so now we haven't gotten to the 30 years yet, but it's our goal. And yeah, we do lots of we do a lot of things. Like we work on a lot of music videos, commercials. We help a lot of Japanese animation studios with their TV series, and now we're finally starting to work on our own content, and we're moving towards longer form. Yeah.
So this might make me sound real dumb, but I saw on the thing that it says race and inclusivity, and I wasn't sure if you're talking about like representation in like actual like your animation or like the other end, and so I kind of didn't know what to expect coming into here. So what made y'all want to do this panel?
So it's my fault. So I've been working in the anime industry in animation production at American Studios and at ADV Films. I started there in the 90s as well, and for the longest time, it's like I would go into the recording studio, and I would have a situation where it would be like me and another guy named Doug Smith, who played the voice of Golden Boy in that show Golden Boy. Amazing show, you should check it out. And he's half Vietnamese, half American, half white, and I'm half Japanese, half white. Together we made one full Asian. And for the longest time I'd be like, hey, can we get like some other people, other races in here? And one of the things that I'd be told is like, oh, well, you two should be enough, right? I'm like, well, no, not really. It's kind of lonely in here. And so, and it's kind of the same at the American animation studios back in the day. Like when I started working in the American studios, there'd be maybe like 2 other women if I was lucky, and then we'd always get asked to answer the phones and clean and get coffee, and I was like, no, I want to do animation. And so so there was never really a lot, and it's been an ongoing fight to try and bring in as much diversity as possible. Even as recently, like I went to work at a studio. I'm not going to name names, but like I went to work at a studio in the U.S. and I was the token POC and the token woman. It was a big video game studio, and I'm like, what? You know, $70 million like video game, and I'm it. Wow, you know, it's like it just. So whenever possible, I've always been trying to help out and giving the opportunities, and so like you know with like Titmouse when they were like, we want an anime studio, and I was like, get them up. You know, it's like I was like literally like, Arthel, he's amazing, and talk him up, and sure enough, you guys got the Boys Diabolical.
Yeah, we do.
And got an Emmy.
Yeah, I didn't get anything, but I guess we were, like, yeah, the whole series was big and
Yeah, and when he was like, I want to start a dubbing studio, I was like, okay, here, let me help you. So been helping with getting projects, helped with, you know, it's like talking to video game studios and be like, hey, you know, it's like, you know, I looked on your crew website. You know, it's like you go onto like a video game website and you look up and it's like, hey, you know, it's like who all works there? Oh wow, you've got one Asian and they work in the accounting department. You know how to make your guys a little bit more diverse. Hire this studio here because they're black owned, and we, you know, they focus on having a lot of like POCs in their roster, instant diversity, and they were like, yeah, that's right. It's like, okay, cool. So, so yeah, that's how got Stormgate over at that video, their studio, and just kind of been, and I've been pushing a lot of just projects wherever I can. So, well, anyone?
yeah, I think it's interesting that, at least with us, like, I don't know if diversity is the main reason why we're doing what we're doing. I think it actually, I think the importance of diversity just in the industry is that it just happens naturally, because if you have just diverse people who are in charge of companies, then of course the people that you hire will then in turn be just diverse, right? And I think that's just what our goal is. So even like our staff is half. Our studio is in Japan, but so we have half Japanese, and then the other half are from everywhere actually. There are Americans, Black Americans, Taiwanese, and Indonesian, and it's not that we're looking specifically like we're trying to fill a quota or anything like that. It just happens naturally because our upbringing was already, you know, diverse, right? High school with many people, and they're just naturally aware of that talent and creativity comes in all shades and colors and genders and things. And so I think that for us, like, I think that's the kind of drive. Like, there's just, you know, I think it should just be it's just a normal thing.
From a casting director's point of view, and also an actor in the anime industry working with big names that I won't mention. But I like to see Leslie Awards as a company that looks over your application, but we're not going to hand you the job. You still have to put in the work, you still have to be a good actor, but we want the company to offer those opportunities to POCs as well, but not just POCs. And yeah, I don't believe in filling in like a certain quota. My day job is I work as a marketing director in Austin. And, you know, like, I see it all the time in the tech world where it's like, oh yeah, we totally have an HR person or someone who's like, yeah, we definitely want to diversify. And then they look at the application or someone on LinkedIn to see what the person who's applying for the job looks like. And they're like, well, they don't look like one of my friends. Nope. Despite the fact that they are qualified. Leslie Awards our company, and what I want to do is I want to stop that in the industry, because that does happen in the industry a lot. And I said, no, let's at least give them a chance to talk, act, audition, and then I see if they can drop, or if they are good enough, then let's bring them aboard. But there are a lot of industries and a lot of things, or rather a lot of companies in the acting and voice acting industry that won't even let you put in their application, or they will take your application and toss it over their shoulder when you turn your back. And I'm trying to stop that. So that's a little bit like what I do. And especially as a casting director, I don't look at people's profiles until after I come down to my top 5 picks. In fact, Gerardo, for one of my first movies I ever casted, played the lead for it because he was a good actor. And also I heard his audition and I was like, this is what I'm looking for. And then when I looked at him, I was like, oh, whoa, I know him. Okay. I don't go by the, hey, I'm gonna hire my friend because they're reliable. I'm going by the, hey, I'm gonna hire this person because they are good and they impress me, and that's it. Oh, yeah, any other questions?
There's a question over there.
So, I mean, we're at an anime convention, and I've been watching anime for a long time, and kind of what you said, it changes over time. I've noticed for being a person of color, when I was younger, you didn't see a lot of characters like us, and then it started to kind of trickle in, and then Afro Samurai kind of was the big hey, we're in the forefront kind of thing. But the question for y'all as animators and also as actors is when you get those roles that come across, do you feel a little bit of the pressure of making sure that they're not portrayed in the ways that they've always been, and kind of making sure that they're different?
Your question is about how they look or how they act, depending on that, who should answer.
Yeah, more of how, because a lot of the characters I remember before whenever they were showing up, they're always big, burly, kind of overbearing personalities.
Yeah.
And it was kind of just that personality you saw a lot, and there wasn't a lot of variance.
All right. So from animation producer's point of view, basically Japan is not that sensitive to, because Japan is very mono race culture. We basically 99% of Japan residents are Japanese looking. There are 10% of Chinese and Korean origin people, but they look same as us. And other people are very rare. So that's why we kind of originally used those characters as a typical image of those characters. We see them as a character. But now, last 20 years, because our content became successfully more global, so we're getting more communication with global audience. So recently we had a very interesting project, which is still development stage with Sami, that they had one, with American producer, they had one Afro-American character who lives in Japan and does a lot of things. And then we were discussing how to do a character design. And initially we came back with a character more like Afro samurai type of style, with a kind of an old style, Afro-American type of face. But then we found out the real part to make them look that shape is actually head. Even if those characters we make they have a more, different shape of nose or mouth. Actually, we realized, shape of the head defines that race. So that was a big finding, and we had a very nice discussion. I think that it's really becoming more global. I mean, getting there that this racial thing is not as a stereotypical characterization, but more of looking them as a how to say, more naturally, you know, physically, you know, that's a, and then of course that character is not typical macho guy. He's a sensitive guy. That's why we didn't want to have an Afro samurai type of character there. So I think it's getting there. And then going to acting side.
On the acting side, depending on, sometimes it just depends on the project, because some characters you get, they're meant to be very stereotypical, but the writing for it doesn't come off so much derogatory. So then you don't have that negative feeling of trying to portray it a specific way and saying, okay, I can do this. This is pretty easy, standard. Maybe it's a story based in a certain time period. In time periods, especially dealing with the past, is always a tricky thing to deal with, be it animation or live action, because you want to be true to the time period, but then you also need to take your personal feeling out of it, because when you attach it, then it becomes something else. But getting roles across the board for people in general, it is getting a lot better. Yes, it is difficult to get more roles where you look in anime, you don't see a lot of people of color as the characters. And then when you do, the creators occasionally will say, well, actually, they're not this or they're not that, they're just something else. And sometimes I appreciate that because they don't want to deal with the baggage that can come with. But on the opposite side, I would love to see more characters of color from across the world in more animation from here on out. And it's happening, and I'm glad that it is, because when I first got to Japan, it was rare, it was super rare. But now it's happening so much that I'm enjoying it. One of the first things that I saw that actually made me stop was Michiko to Hachin. Michiko and Hachin, and it's in Brazil. And that was like the first animation I saw that was not somewhere fantastical, not in New York, dystopian future or Japan. So I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, what is this? And I love the music for it. Between that and Samurai Champloo with the soundtrack for it, dealing with Okinawa, they look at you like, hey, this is actually kind of awesome. So then I started actually trying to look for things in different genres, just for that exposure to different characters, storylines, music, and artists. Those.
I can also say that as a performer, right, as a VO actor, I am seeing, and also as a director sometimes, I am seeing a lot more scripts and projects come across the desk that where representation does matter, right? Like most of the time now, most directors are being true to the origin and to the culture of the characters. And that's across like people of the global majority, different identities. There's a lot more scripts with a bunch of different gender, sexual orientation, or identity or association. Like those scripts are coming more and more out. There's a lot more diverse writers out there, and there's a lot more projects being picked up to represent a bunch of different identities in the world, which is great. So it is changing. The producers now do know that, you know, if you have a certain character of a certain type, maybe those people should also be playing that character. Because it used to be, you know, the one white dude with the really deep voice plays a lot of the different ethnic characters, regardless of which type. And that is changing. That is being recognized now. So I am encouraged that that is getting better.
Like, so I also do a little bit of acting. So one of the things is like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, if, you know, it's like back in the day of acting, a lot of times I would get cast as somebody who's Hispanic, you know, I'm not. You know, it's like I was a Hispanic man, a turnbull henchman in Jonah Hex, the movie with Josh Brolin and Michael Fassbender. I was a chunky Hispanic man with a mustache. But nowadays, it's like, back then, they just be like, oh yeah, it's like, she can do all those. And I'm like, oh wow, yeah. Now, when I get like auditions, it's like because it's like I got an audition for a movie called Killers of the Flower Moon, which is a Martin Scorsese movie that with I think Leonardo DiCaprio is in it, and I turned it down because it was requiring me to play a Native American character. And I'm like, no, there's no way. So it's like actually really glad that it's like there's more people who are aware and would not take those roles if they're not like authentic to the character. There's still a lot of work that still needs to be done, unfortunately, but I'm seeing more when you look at all the casting audition sites and things like that. I'm actually starting to see, it's like little blurbs that say POCs encouraged to audition, or it's like, if you are not this race, do not audition, and people still do it. You have to weed those people out. But yeah, it's interesting how now there's more of a push to try and create more authentic casting, and the same kind of also goes behind the scenes on the animation side. It's like if I'm being asked to animate like a character, if I'm not really the right race, then I'm kind of like, do I really feel okay animating this? Or writing a story also. So whenever possible, I always try and get the input of the correct race, so that way I stay culturally sensitive. So yeah,
Good question. Thank you. Thank you.
Question?
Any other question? Looks like he has a question.
Now I can hear.
Nobody wants to have any questions? Oh, there we go.
What would you say is a very defining moment in your career where you feel like it changed for the better, where if you had made a different choice, it may not be where you are today?
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, I felt like a lot of kind of defining moments. Because I like take lots of steps. Right, I'm from Patterson, New Jersey, and then I decided to go to college all in California, which is like really far from my parents, and family, their side of the coast. And then I was just like, like I was trying to decide if I should, go to school like in another country, right? But of course, like you have a lot of people who are just like, oh no, you can't speak Japanese, you can't do something. That was the same thing, right? You have the money, how are you gonna go to California? And I think, I don't know, like I've taken lots of steps that I felt like each of them were all defining. And just deciding to move to Japan. And then once I got to Japan, I wanted to go to college there. And then I had to move from Osaka to Tokyo, because I was trying to decide, like, should I try to extend my career or try to get into animation, and stay in the West Coast, or should I go to the East Coast, which is where Tokyo is? And then, like, I guess the biggest thing was, I wanted to work, so I got an anime industry, like painting backgrounds, but I wanted to, so I was trying to decide, should I just continue painting backgrounds longer, because of course, like, my senpai and painting backgrounds for like 10 years or something, and I had only gotten to like 5, and so I was thinking, okay, I should continue a little bit longer. Then actually I did start that for a book, then I started making backgrounds for games, then I went to production, so I guess ultimately it's like 7 years. But then, I had to kind of make a choice when there was this chance, like, finally I could start my own company, but I still felt like I wasn't ready. But at every stage, I always felt like, oh, I'm not ready, really, right? How can I start a company? Like, not that great yet at what I'm doing. But then I was just like, but my friend was like, I'm gonna, you should, you always want to start a company, you should just do it, you just gotta do it. So I don't know, I feel like all of those things are defining, like there's not one that's more important than the other. Like each thing, like if you take out one of those steps, then probably I wouldn't be where you are, right, or where I am. And so I feel like so I would say that the thing that's important for me when it comes to defining is just really deciding to do something and then doing it, like, and not having fear. I think maybe that's the most important thing. Like,
Uh, so, I think my first, dose of reality, I guess you could say, I was working at an animation studio in the US, for 6 years. I was, doing animation, and I noticed that all the guys would go out to lunch regularly, and me and the other girls, we'd be like, oh, we're just brown bagging it. And all the interns would go, and, go out to eat lunch with all the guys. And then they came back and they'd be complaining about how much money it cost them to go out to lunch every day. And so it's like me and the other girls were like, oh yeah, why don't you be like us, just brown bag it. And then one of the interns that we were training just blurted out, yeah, it would help if we would be paid more, it's like $9 an hour. You can't really like go out to lunch all the time. And me and the other two girls, we were like, what? Because we were being paid $7 an hour. So I had been working at this company for 6 years for $7 an hour. And I was like, what? So I went to the bosses and I was like, this isn't fair. And so I got blacklisted in the US. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna start my own company. And so I started my own company. And the only company in the US that would give me a chance was Spike TV, the channel for men. And it was run by a woman named Sharon Levy. And together we were like, we're gonna make animation. And I was like, yes. And the first project that we got was with Justin Roiland, and I was the director. Justin Roiland, he did Rick and Morty. And so yeah, that was my first defining moment, because it caused like the whole me whistleblowing, getting banned, and then finally I was like, okay, I'm just gonna work with the Japanese from now on, because it was like that whole pushback of like, oh, she's very, it's like she's too pushy, it's like she won't let us like run her over, and it takes a man's channel run by a woman to kind of give me that chance. And
loud women.
yeah, no loud women. And so one of the things I get told a lot is that I'm intimidating, which I'm like, I'm 5 foot. How intimidating can a 5 foot tall Asian woman be? Am I intimidating?
No.
Oh, okay. So, but then like I had another breakthrough a couple years ago, because then like some folks over at Nickelodeon started asking me questions, and they'd be like, hey Sammy, I need help on this with anime, blah blah blah. And then a couple of directors and like Giancarlo won't stop texting me in the middle of the night asking for advice on anime production and who he should talk to, blah blah blah. And then I started hearing through the grapevine, it's like, yeah, over at the studio they're calling you like the anime girl. And so I do like a lot of consulting now for all these like big studios out in California, and I'm just like, wow, okay, it's different, it's interesting. And so now with the respect that I now have, because back in the day, anime was very not mainstream, And so people kind of made fun of anime, and then now everybody loves it. And so people like have started coming asking for advice. Can you connect me to this anime studio? Can you connect me to this anime studio? So, yeah, and it's crazy.
We're at the 5 minute mark, guys. So I'm gonna try to make it. Defining.
Power has a question.
Oh.
Super quick question. What is everybody's favorite anime? Just like down the line. I think that's like a big one.
Difficult question.
Ninja Scroll.
Super quick.
Mine, Ninja Scroll.
I think mine is Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
Rose of Versailles.
No, like,
So I can say, when I was a kid, Haikara-san ga Toru. I don't know if anybody knows it. It's a girl's anime. I loved it when I was 10 years old. And I wanted to marry that main.
Oh yeah. Tenchi Universe.
So
yeah. String.
Just like house.
Recently, it's like a string. I'm just gonna give you an honest answer. I have too many. One of them is definitely dealing with the character.
Samurai Champloo.
Yes, Samurai Champloo will go down as one of my top 10 of all time, especially with the soundtrack and the artist who unfortunately is no longer with us, who made those four soundtracks, Punjabis, who was amazing. Samurai Champloo, Chainsaw Man, Hell's Paradise, Colorado is key. It's just, yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot. But those are maybe my top 3 at the moment. And, well, can we consider Ruby?
Yeah, okay, wait, there's a question here.
Well, yeah, and Ruby is.
So specifically for you, you do backgrounds and stuff like that. Like I wouldn't call it a niche thing to do, but like you would think like anime companies already have someone in-house to do that. As your own company, what was the easiest #1 thing you would do to get your name out there?
You mean for being background or just the company?
Like, yeah, you've done projects and stuff, and those were the projects you did. But like when you were starting off as a smaller company, what was like? How did anyone even know about you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I remember when we first started our company, we were working on, what were we doing? We were doing like Illegal Ignited. I think it was a very small thing, and we were working with another animation studio. And then that animation studio CEO lives in Japan, but he asked the same question. He's like, oh, there's lots of anime, and what are you going to do to kind of establish yourself? And making anime is super difficult. It's difficult for Japanese studios. You're a foreign-owned studio. What are you going to do that's going to make yourself stand out? And at that time, I didn't really have an answer, right? Because it's just like, I don't know, I'm just gonna make anime. And I didn't think about it like larger than that. And the thing that made me kind of at least know that it's okay to, not have anything initially, because most, so I read this book that said that like all corporations kind of keep changing through the years, 3M, like right now is known for making, actually lots of things actually. Like now they do a lot of technology things, but when it first started out, I think they made glue, and now, they're still here. And one of the companies that I thought that I use as an example, at least to give me motivations to keep making animation, was Starbucks, because there's tons of coffee companies and like tons of beverage companies and things like that. But yet Starbucks is fine, right? And like they figure out a way to build out. They figure out a way to create a niche for themselves. And I don't know if I have that answered yet. Like have we created a niche for ourselves? And I don't even know if we have yet. And then I'm always in the mindset that we haven't done what we're here to do yet. And I feel like almost all artists, we're always constantly like trying to improve ourselves and constantly searching and constantly working towards something. And so I don't really know what our niche is going to be yet. And I don't even, like, we haven't even defined our style yet. I want to, and I want to create something that's amazing. And I hope that we can get there, to that, with that niche, that thing that does define our company. We're still a young company, and so I feel like it's fine to not be defining yourself yet.
Yeah, actually, I've watched the industry such a long time. I can tell you that most of famous studios, there are two parts. One, for example, background company. One is to become a specialist in background and become super famous, like a Studio Musa. It's a very famous company, and then they got an Emmy Award for Afro Samurai Resurrections, and then they are the best, one of the highest quality. Or Grand Cowboy is the same. So that's a one way to go. The other way is from background company, and then because they are so good, they expand into producing and making actually a famous studio. There are quite a few of them, in fact. And then now we are working with one company who's becoming there, and I suppose you are the one as well. Then after this, we're gonna exchange name card, and then I start working with him. Maybe, yeah. So that's one thing. And then another part is also the composition. Used to be camera work, now it's composition. That's one specific area, and quite a few companies became actually famous studio starting from there. So be excellent in one niche area, one part of the entire value chain, then be number one on only one. Then you have two choices: to become super good and then become super number one or only one in that niche, or you become based on that, build an entire studio and become a famous studio, or visible studio to our audience. That's a choice. So I suppose you are choosing to go to visible part rather than becoming the super background guy, right?
Yeah. So we definitely don't want to be like the
Yeah, but that's most of Japanese anime industry companies are doing everywhere. By the way, Gonzo is just design. And my background is more actually Gonzo. I started as a Gonzo and Digimation, two companies merged in 2000 and became current Gonzo. And then I started with actually composition. So those, because digitization started from there. And Gonzo started design, and then they wanted to use digital technology and then import and hired a lot of CG guy. And we did that digital part and we merged. So that's a kind of there are a lot of way to evolve, but then you don't start from having everything in general. So that's that program answer.
Yeah. Thank you.
Real quick, because we're getting done, if any of you guys have panels that you guys want to pip out, right now would be a good time.
Pimp out our panels, okay. Yeah, panel pimping. We have a panel tomorrow at 1? 1 and 2 p.m. 1 to 2 p.m. And
concept art. So it'll be a concept art panel, so we'll do some drawing there. We'll show you concept art for different projects that we worked on. So one and
sorry, 2 Sundays, I'll tell you what room as well.
Tomorrow at 2 p.m. to 3, I'm with one of the sponsors of this anime. They're called Iridescent Manga or Blaze Manga. They do they do their own manga. They created a manga a long time ago. So we talk about through the process of how they begun assembling the manga, doing all the research for it, and now it became also an audio manga. So you can look at the physical copy, the illustrated copy, but also a digital copy where when you flip the pages, the actor or the characters actually talk the story. So it's like their own narration. So we'll talk about how the company Blaze started that concept, how we put together all the action for the sequences, and then how they assembled it and then recorded everything with all the actors. So that's from 2 to 3.
The panel from 1 to 2, sorry, not to, is at, what is it, HPG?
Hemisphere, Henry B. Gonzalez Hemisphere Ballroom. C1, and that's gonna be on floor 3. Yeah, you're welcome.
And sorry, not knowing, because this is like the first time being here, and still running on 3 hours of sleep.
The console, oh. The
And the
Gonzo-
Gonzo,
Gonzo
Gonzo is
11:30.
11:30. Please come. And then HPG, ZBG, Hemisphere, A, third, A, third, A. Okay?
Also, congratulations on your 30-year anniversary.
Thank you.
That's golden.
I have audition session or autograph session tomorrow from 12 to 1 p.m. where I can go more into the audition process, casting, as well as if you are aspiring or a current voice actor, I would love to hear more from you and maybe exchange business cards or just information and tell me what you can do and potentially add to the roster because I am casting for a video game in another couple of weeks. This game will end, and I love it. And then I'm going to be emceeing tonight at 11 p.m. for the Demon Dice Japan and Fake Star concert. So that should be fun, and we're going to have a good old time. And yeah,
Is that tonight?
that's tonight. You know, the older you get, the more caffeine you have to drink. Stay up at 11, and I'm like, all right, outfit, switch that out, get ready, pretend like you're 21 again. You know.
It's all part of acting.
Yeah.
You're way the youngest out of all of us.
I know, right?
How old are you guys?
In my 40s and proud.
Somewhere 18.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm like 27, so it is what it is. But thank you all for coming, really appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
And hopefully you will see you tomorrow.
Yeah, and like what Mr. Bryan said, the Demon Dice concert is with Mo Shop, and they're both performers. It'll be located in the Lone Star Ballroom on the 2nd floor in Hyatt. The concert will be from 11 to 12:30, and the doors will open at 10 o'clock. So just letting you all know if you're interested in stopping by that concert.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.